talk. Here we go. Brand new Q&A just for you guys. I am super excited. I hope you join me. Don't forget to subscribe and check out weekly episodes of the Talks with Taeler Hendrix podcast, because we don't do this all the time, but I make it a point to. Here we go. The first question is a doozy. Someone asked me, what do you think is missing from today's pro wrestling sort of, I don't know, I guess like realm, you could say. And okay, paying dues. This is something I've talked about before, but in a different way. Paying dues is not a bad thing. And I'm not like some jaded old school, like, oh, you gotta pay dues, kid. Like, no. I think paying dues keeps you grounded and keeps your appreciation levels at a very healthy, with a very healthy expectation. And the reason why I say it in that manner, as I just broke my nail, is because of something that we've recently talked about on, I believe, the last Q&A. I see so many younger talents either getting a big head way too fast and it's actually hurting their career long term and they don't see it yet because they're too caught up in their big head. Or I see these stars that deserve more than what they're getting and they got too much too fast too soon, didn't know how to navigate it and handle it and use it in the right trajectory in an upward momentum. And now they're stuck because that all of a sudden stopped and they're fizzling out. Their star is burning too bright too fast and they're fizzling out. These things would not happen as often or with such frequency as they are right now if more people were paying dues. And that's the problem with success and progress. I think the quote, my grandfather used to say it, I think it was something to the effect of, I was so little, I was probably like 3 and 4 years old when I was hearing this. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. I believe that's what it was. And I think that not only applies to society, but it also applies to the wrestling industry. You know, so many different women fought so hard for there to be more opportunities, and lo and behold, we are in that today. We are currently, as women in wrestling, for example, this is just one of numerous examples. This isn't an I am woman, hear me roar thing. At one point in time, there weren't really spots for women anymore. Somehow the business has gone from very, like, lots of spots for women who could actually, you know, follow through with it, to starting to slow fizzle down to virtually none. And then all of a sudden more women coming back in, and it starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And now we're living the dreams of others in this business as women. There's so much more opportunity today than what there was, say, 10 years ago and 15 years ago. And believe, I was in the business over 15 years ago, so I would know. Okay, you know, if you were a girl in the Midwest, you know, 15 and 16 years ago, you were struggling, honey. You know, because even like 8 years ago, there wasn't a lot of the girls in the Midwest, for example. I remember feeling so spoiled because when I came in New Bedford on the East Coast in Massachusetts, there was like 6 girls wrestling that were located in my hometown alone. You know, and that's not including the girls from other parts of Massachusetts and New Hampshire and Connecticut and New Jersey and New York and Vermont, so forth and so on. Not really so much Vermont, but you get the idea. You know, the potential was there. I mean, we were just a 5-hour drive outside of Philly. You know, it was so easy to navigate. The Midwest and the West Coast didn't really have that because the West Coast is so huge and then the Midwest is so vast, and there wasn't, even though there's a lot of promotions, there wasn't a lot of women that could go. So I think with that progress and progression of opportunity, it's led to less paying dues and more girls just automatically getting the go that not a lot of men get. On the indies specifically. On TV, I think they get the better end of the stick as opposed to women, but on the indies, the women get the much better end of the stick than the men. And not a lot of people talk about that. So paying dues, this would prevent a lot of stars from fizzling out and burning out too fast. It makes me sad because I'm actually working with someone right now who has felt that way for a couple years, and they didn't understand that that's what they were feeling. And I've been working with them to turn that around and reinvent themselves and come back smarter and bigger and better and rejuvenated and reinvigorated and even more passionate and dedicated to what they do, because that passion and dedication was already there. They just didn't really understand what was going on in their career for them and to them. They didn't understand the reasons why. And we don't have enough people helping with that. And one of those things is, in fact, paying dues. I mean, you can't be afraid to pay dues to an industry that you love. I carried people's bags. I bought people's coffees. I drove people. I went to seminars. I did shows for free. You know, I paid for so many different seminars to learn from people that I felt were more successful and more knowledgeable than myself. You know, I went through all the hazing and everything. I did it all. I did Chop Shop, and I legitimately did it all. And even though it wasn't pleasant most of the time, I don't think I would have it any other way. I honestly don't. So yeah, that is missing, and it's detrimental. Not the Chop Shop thing, but a lot of the other stuff. Okay, another person asked me, tell us about the time when you went blind and deaf. Okay, I think this person, or I don't think, I know that this person is referencing an injury that I had discussed on last week's episode, where I was in a match with a woman that was a lot bigger and stronger than me, and that's not an experience I had very often. I was always the taller girl usually, and I'm not crazy tall, but I'm 5'7". I always wanted to be like 5'9", 5'10". I thought like being in wrestling at that height would really set me apart. But I am the shortest girl in my immediate family with my mother and my sister and stuff, which is kind of funny. But anyway, so that was a different experience. I wasn't used to wrestling women that were taller and so much stronger than me. And I don't think she really understood her body and her strength. At least I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt without assuming that it was on purpose. Because I just didn't get that vibe from her, that it was, I've been hurt on purpose by people, but this just was not the vibe that I got from her. I think her inexperience, but she was being pushed. So she felt like she was at a level that she really wasn't, kind of like a big head sort of thing. But I don't think it was a big head. I just think, you know, she was believing the hype, basically, in combination with, you know, not knowing the true extent of her strength in the ring and forgetting that it's a partnership and that you should listen to the person with more experience. She wasn't doing any of those things. And at one point she kind of just went rogue, and she was doing her stuff, and she short arm clotheslined me. Short arm clothesline is you grab them, you pull them in, and you clothesline them down. Hence short arm clothesline. It's not just a regular running clothesline or standstill clothesline. And she didn't let go and let me take my own bump. So she basically drilled my head down into the mat, and I was concussed, and I couldn't see out of one of my eyes. And this was, I believe, after the match is very hazy for me. This was either before or after she threw me into the pole head first while holding my arm, so I could not protect myself like at all, which was very disconcerting. It's like, chill out, calm down, listen, stop. But none of those things were happening. I remember telling my ref, who is one of my all-time favorite refs of my career. He's like top 3 as far as my favorite referees are concerned, and he's now living his best life at WWE, which is absolutely amazing, you guys. Like, he wanted that for years. So to see him just married, happy, and living his best life, his childhood dream, to me, that's just wonderful. I think we need more stories like that. Anyways, I tell him, I'm like, hey Chris, I am hurt bad. You got to tell her not to bump me. I'm legit hurt. Like, I'm not healing out right now. Like, I am hurt. And he can see that, because normally I'll work through almost anything, and he knows that, but this was different. And he like, I could see the look on his face change, and he goes, oh, he's like, she's hurt, don't bump her. And he's like telling her, no, don't bump her, and she's hurt, and he's throwing this up, and she's not listening. And then she continues with all the pre-planned nonsense and stuff. And then we also have a slap spot, and her slap spot is how I ended up deaf. She did something she wasn't supposed to, where you're not supposed to hit people in the ear. You can rupture the eardrum and all this other stuff, right? You're not really supposed to hit the jaw hard, because you can dislocate the person's jaw, which has happened to me. The best place to do it is here, and do it really fast so that, you know, people don't notice that that's where you hit them. So yeah, she cupped my ear. I lost hearing in the ear, and on the, I believe it was the same side, I lost sight in my eye, and I was concussed. I remember Al Snow like checking my eyes and stuff, and confirming that I was in fact concussed. And yeah, I left that venue that night. I say I was struck deaf, dumb, and stupid, but that's because that's how it felt. I was blind in one eye, I was deaf in one ear, and I was concussed. And that was really, really difficult for me. The eyesight for the most part came back the next day, but it took months, because there was nerve damage to my ear. I had to see like an ENT doc and all this other stuff. And to this day, I still don't have like full sight the way I should, and I am partially deaf on that side. So that's the story. That's the story, folks. And that's why, you know, you have to be really careful with who you're wrestling and what you're doing in the ring, because, you know, you're 1 second away from permanent injury, career ending, or even death. And that's really scary. So you have to trust the people that you're working with. And don't do stupid shizit just for the sake of a cheap pot that nobody's going to remember 6 months to a year from now. Like, is it really worth your life? But hey, what do I know? Another person asked me, what is a misnomer that you wish more people knew? Okay. I don't know about you guys, but I sometimes get like heartburn or like acid reflux, which triggers my asthma, which triggers my restrictive lung disease. And I guess this whole cascading thing, right? Well, apparently what a lot of people don't actually know, and I didn't learn until about a year ago, is the fact that when you have things like heartburn and acid reflux, 9 times out of 10, I'm not a doctor, so look this up for yourself, it's because you actually don't have enough stomach acid to fully perform in your digestive system. Like, a lot of times they tell you, oh, it's too much acid, you got to decrease the acid. But I think that's people telling you to make you more sick. Yeah, it's actually apparently because you don't have enough of it, not because you have too much. Isn't that interesting? That is definitely a misnomer that I wish more people would look up and learn about. What is one chore that you love and one chore that you hate? This is fun. I absolutely love matching socks. I know it's weird. I know it's weird. Even Mama Hendrix thinks it's weird, but ever since I was a kid, I just find it soothing and relaxing. It's like the household chore version of Dr. Pimple Popper for me. I don't know why. Like, I have always loved matching socks. I find it very like therapeutic. Sorry, I have like dog fur in my face. One chore I hate. I hate anything to do with dishes, guys. I can't stand it. And I'm also a neat freak and germaphobe that hates dishes sitting in the sink, but I am so busy that a lot of times this will end up happening and I can't stand it. I hate washing the dishes. It makes my skin itchy. I hate doing the dishes. I hate drying the dishes. I hate putting the dishes away. I hate touching dirty dishes to put them in the dishwasher. I hate taking clean dishes that might be a little bit damp out of the dishwasher and putting them away. I cannot stand it. I can't stand it. I hate it. And unfortunately, I love to cook and I love to bake. So doing that thing is, you know, something I just had to get used to. But it doesn't mean I like it. Can't stand it. Thoughts on the OVW Netflix special? Oh, okay, guys, I think I was already just like pumping it in the intro to this episode. I am so stoked about it. I had no idea. I also thought it was so amazing that the kick-ass, awesome, amazing woman that she is, Maria James, actually put me over and some other people that are in our own ways successful that spent time at OVW. To me, that was so heartwarming because I feel like I get forgotten. And there was so much more I wanted to give to OVW, but they weren't really in the creative space that they are now. Like, I am so jealous of what all of these people are getting at OVW now. Like, I think so many of us women really wanted that back then, and a lot of the stars really did, but it just wasn't happening then, but it is now. So I'm a little bit jelly, but I'm also so excited because this is going to keep its not just its legitimacy, but also its legacy, you know, to another hungry generation, and you can't be mad at that, you know what I mean? Sorry guys, I like to play with my hair, so sorry about that. But yeah, I am so excited about it. I think it's so amazing. The more buzz they get, the more that they're going to keep doing great things in the business. And I think schools like Monster Factory, like Ohio Valley Wrestling, like Hernandez's school, I think more schools like that exist in the business, they'll help make the business better. And I can't hate on that because I've given my life to, I've given everything that I've had to this business. And so I don't want it to see its death and destruction. You know, I want to see it prosper and thrive and be better than how I came into it. And so yeah, that's to me what I am really excited about. Okay. Who is a WWE or AEW star that you would like to wrestle in the future? I would love to wrestle Natty, Asuka. I love interacting with her on social media. She's a super cool chick. I really want to wrestle with Lana. I think she gets a real crappy end of the stick, and she puts so much energy and dedication and passion into learning how to wrestle, and fans were not kind, so shame on those fans. Let me see here. I would also like to wrestle with Becky and Lita and Trish, of course. I mean, that goes kind of without saying, you know. Let me see here. There's a bunch of women at NXT. I really would like to wrestle with Mandy Rose. I also feel like she didn't get as full credit as she deserves. I think when she went back to NXT, she was doing some really great stuff, and she was passing on, I think a lot of the skills and knowledge that she was passing on for television, a lot of people don't understand how valuable that stuff actually is. Like, I can tell you that could have taken several years of standstill that felt like failure off of my career and helped me get on my track to success a lot sooner than it did had I had someone passing on that kind of knowledge that Mandy was passing on to other people at NXT. And I can tell you that firsthand because I know some of the skills and stuff she was passing to, like Gigi Dolan and JC Jane and some others that she was working with. So I would totally work with her. I always wanted to work with Toni Storm. I like her look. I like her vibe. I think that would be fun. There's a lot. There's too many to list in this one Q&A. Okay, this person has a really loaded question. Basically, they're asking me, what are my thoughts and opinions on AEW only doing like one women's match per like AEW Dynamite and Collision, etc. And apparently they asked the Eve owner his thoughts on it, and he felt like it might come down to like some sort of business decision, and perhaps Tony Khan thinking that, you know, women's wrestling doesn't draw. Those are his viewpoints, supposedly, according to the person that asked this question. I'm not sure if they're referring to Pro Wrestling Eve or what, but oh my gosh, I'm so itchy. Guys, I'm allergic to my dogs. I'm actually when I moved to OVW is when I developed allergies. I was never allergic to dogs before moving to Kentucky. I got allergic to grass, dogs, hay, and some other stuff. So yeah, it's like, oh, like really? But anyway, so yeah, if you see me doing this, I apologize, but I am itchy. That's what I get for loving on my dogs before starting this episode. But I love them. Okay, so I think this is a multifaceted question that deserves a multi-pronged approach, if that makes sense. Because I am not Tony Khan, and I'm also not in the back at AEW, but I have been a woman in wrestling since I was 17 years old. I was still in high school. I was innocent, if you understand what I mean. I had no business being in wrestling, and I have actually had people say I've had individuals say to my face that women's wrestling doesn't belong on TV and you aren't wanted here. I've legit had that said to me by a couple different people, some of whom are actually still actively in positions of power today in the wrestling industry. So I'm not surprised. Honestly, I'm not surprised. Do I think the women automatically deserve to be on TV just because they're women? No. I think that's something that you do have to earn, but I don't think it should be harder than the men. Like, there are some men on TV that probably shouldn't be on TV. I also think AEW has such a huge roster that you cannot have like everybody on TV every single week. And when the roster keeps growing and growing and growing, and viewership might be going down, that's not necessarily the fault of the women, but it's obviously going to fall on the backs of the women, because that's just how it always goes. That's how it's been going for years. I think just people weren't really paying attention or smartening up to it. Okay. This is like I've seen it in every promotion that I've been in, almost. So, do I think women deserve more than one match on TV? Yeah. I mean, the most appearances in the top viewed ROH matches, for example, were Women of Honor. There was only a few men's matches on there, and I think I made 3 appearances in the top 5. I worked really hard for that, and that's not something anybody can take away from us. And you can turn around and say, oh, you know, it's because you have this and whatnot. Well, what's the excuse when I'm wearing a t-shirt and you can't see anything? My interactions on social media have not gone down. So what's the excuse then? You know what I'm saying? There's always going to be an excuse and a negative reason for people to try to discredit you and dehumanize you and so forth. The trick is to not listen. Honestly, because it's their opinion, and their opinions aren't going to change unless they want to. So I can't say with certainty what the exact reason is for Tony Khan only having one women's match. Do I think they have the depth and talent to have more than one match? Absolutely. I don't see why there can't be 2 women's matches per show. You know what I mean? But also, I think sometimes men think that that takes away from them, and they shouldn't think that way, because if women are adding more eyeballs, even it's because people think they're hot and they're not necessarily tuning in for the wrestling, but they stay for the wrestling, it's a win-win for everyone, because more viewership to your company means more longevity for your company, which means more opportunity for your company, and more opportunity and longevity for your company means more pay, more TV time, and more opportunity for you and the industry that you supposedly love. So for all the people that are always like, oh, we're in wrestling, we're a family, well, then act like it. And start, you know, defending your brothers and sisters in the right ways and speak out. See something, say something. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I can't disagree with the WWEAEW owner, but I can't confirm that that's exactly the reason either, because I'm not back there. And I don't speak on things that I do not know. And that's something that more people should practice. But yeah, is what's going on a completely new issue? No, this has been going on for so long. I think just more people are finally starting to notice, because like we talked about earlier with what's missing today from wrestling, there's more opportunity for women now. So there's more eyeballs noticing when that opportunity looks a little wonky. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think that's a very legitimate question. It's a great question. Do I think they have the potential to have more than one match per show? Absolutely. Do I think certain things are getting oversaturated? Absolutely. Do I think it's a problem when more money is going out than coming in? Absolutely. Do I think it's a problem when your roster gets too big, so then stars are getting their potential potentially wasted because they're sitting at home not being used and all this other stuff, while other people that aren't even signed are getting more TV time than them? Yeah, it's a problem. There's a lot of different things that could solve this exact issue, but that's only if people want it, only if the right people want it to be solved. So yeah, but I do wish them luck. I think there's a lot of really hardworking women there, and I think that they deserve the opportunities that they have earned. See, deserve and earned are 2 different things. I think they deserve opportunities to earn the ability to be able to prove their value to the company and to women's wrestling, and to show their unique abilities as individuals and characters, as well as their talents backstage for being, you know, leaders in a locker room, or, you know, coaches and all kinds of things like that. Another person asked me, have I ever lost sleep before matches? All the time. I developed insomnia because of the wrestling industry, like from the wrestling loops and people playing tricks on you if you fall asleep, and videotaping you and all kinds of stuff. And to just, you know, being on the road by yourself. I remember this one loop that took me from Boston to Michigan, Michigan to Chicago, Chicago to Canada, back to Chicago, then from Canada, Chicago, back to Michigan, then back to Boston, from Boston to New Hampshire, from New Hampshire to New York, New York back to Boston. That was a loop that I did completely by myself. It was a lot. It was a lot. So yeah, I always had like performance anxiety, and honestly, I like it because it just means that I care still, and it means I'm still passionate about what I do, but I don't let my jitters, you know, get in the way. I just get jittery. Like, I want the match to be over so then I know how it went, you know, that sort of thing. But I put so much into it, so I don't think it's a bad thing that I get nervous. But I also don't make other people nervous. Like, I'm very calm and collected, so I'll be that person that says we're going in one way and we're coming out the same. I got you. I will talk the whole time. Even though I have asthma and lung disease, I will legitimately talk to you the entire time. And I do. And if something goes wrong, I cover it up. If I know that it can't be covered up because it's too obvious, I acknowledge it and I make the fans laugh and boo and all this other stuff. And I make them a part of the mess up. And I continue on. I'm very confident in that. Like, I remember I covered up a dive went wrong with Deonna Purrazzo one time. The ropes were not the way they were supposed to be, and we didn't have time to change the spot because we had a specific set of time for our block on our part of the show. And so there was an executive decision for her to still do this dive that she didn't normally do, and the ropes caught her feet because they weren't done properly. Like, this wasn't even Deonna's fault, but it did something that also happened to Ruby Soho on a different show where her feet on the same dive got clipped, and it made her like boomerang down like this, like, and her face like hit the metal framing of the ring. I saw that happen to Ruby Soho, but this one for Deanna, it made her house show dive, her Cannonball house show dive, like completely go wrong. And so then I had to cover up the action and stuff, and I just remember feeling so badly because it wasn't even her fault, you know, so stuff like that. A girl messed up my ginger snap one time, and there was no way to fix it. So I remember like standing up like this, and I was like, well, she done up, and like the whole crowd was like, yo, fucked up, and I was like, louder, like it was just great, you know. Sometimes you gotta own it. But yeah, totally lost sleep all the time. Do I have any Native American or Slavic Scandinavian heritage? This is not the first time that I have been asked this. I've had quite a few people ask me that based on my facial structure and my cheekbones and stuff. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised considering how long my family has been in Massachusetts. And from what I understand, I have a lot of Western European heritage. So, I mean, there's definitely potential for me to have some sort of Native American heritage running through my veins. There's Slinky saying hello to everybody in the Taeler Army on this episode. He is normally like a sleepy little wiener. He loves to take naps whenever I do my podcast, and Sally's usually like, I want to say hi, everybody, and he's just like, been there, done that. It's funny. They have such different personalities. Advice for talking to a crush. Listen, what's the worst that can happen? They tell you no, or they say something that slightly embarrasses you short term. Like, you'll get over it at some point, you know? So just talk to them if you want to, or just let it pass. Sometimes crushes are just temporary. So it's really honestly up to you. Like, but honestly though, what's the worst that can happen? Do it so you're not constantly thinking about it and move forward. If they say no, it's no. You know what I mean? You don't necessarily have to chase, and you don't have to be worried, you know, just because if they're not interested, they're not interested. It doesn't make you any less valuable as a person or anything like that. And if they're mean about it, then they definitely weren't for you, and you should be thanking lucky stars that didn't go through, because do you really want to be connected long-term to a person that is mean like that to you? Probably not, right? So what's the worst that can happen? They reveal how they truly feel, or they reveal who they truly are, and then you can take off those rose-colored goggles and see them for who they are. What is the worst that can happen? Let me see. What is advice for memorizing materials for tests? Okay, I had memory issues, and so one of my favorite ways to memorize things, even before all of my wrestling concussions, was actually scientifically proven. A teacher taught us it, and then we looked it up on Google, and it was right there. One of the things is to write down notes, right? And then go over those notes every single day. And what you want to do is read those notes out loud and then rewrite them. If you repeat something out loud instead of just reading it silently to yourself, and then if you rewrite it, you have almost a 40% chance of remembering the material. I know it was like at least 20% chance if you say it out loud over and over and over. There's like a subconscious link to writing it down and then saying it out loud. There's like a subconscious link. You can actually look it up. I thought that was really fascinating when we learned that in high school. So from high school on, that's exactly what I did for any sort of exams, or say there was a really good quote that I wanted to somehow work into a wrestling promo or something. That's what I would do. Another person asked me, since I like Resident Evil, have I ever played the game? I don't remember if I have played the game or not, but here's the thing. I like video games, but they do not like me. I am not good at video games. My sister is insanely great at video games. I, on the other hand, am not. I could... If it's not Tetris or like Mario Party or Mario Kart, like I'm not... And even Mario Kart, I struggle. So I'm just not great at it. It is not in my wheelhouse. I am jealous of people that can be on Twitch and do all the, but it's just not my thing. What would I say about gaining friends? Well, why do you need to gain friends? First and foremost, like, what is it about you that you aren't fulfilling for yourself that you feel like you need to actively go out and seek friends? Sometimes the best of friends end up finding you randomly instead of you going out. Anytime I had to pursue friends, they ended up being the opposite of friends. And it was kind of detrimental. And so sometimes that can be a real liability. So look within yourself first and figure out what it is that you are not providing for yourself, what is missing for you. Because don't forget, a lot of this stuff on social media is fake. A lot of this stuff in movies and TV shows and commercials and stuff, it's fake. It's not real. Okay, it's not real. As much as people like to say wrestling isn't real, like all this propaganda you're being fed also isn't real. Like when you understand how many kids were detrimentally, negatively affected by their preconceived notions of high school based off of watching Saved by the Bell before going to high school, you'll realize how much that has been programmed into us for us to seek out, but it doesn't really work. So I'm not saying don't have any friends and avoid people. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying figure out how to be your own good company first and like being your own company before you go out and trying to seek the approval and friendship of others that you maybe shouldn't be friends with because they're probably not the best for you. What was the last thing I cooked? Okay. I have this delicious go-to dish. It is a creamy chicken and rice skillet dish. It's all in one, so it's very easy. Not a lot of dishes, not a lot of maintenance. I love it. It is so yummy. So I made that recently, a few days ago without... Not a few days ago, it was yesterday actually. Without the chicken, I do like peas and carrots and kale in it, and it's so creamy, it's yummy. I absolutely love it. It's super easy. And what I do is I actually make these homemade garlic and herb biscuit rolls to go with it. It is one of my favorite go-tos because you can make a lot of it, and then you have lunches and leftovers for several days, which helps you save money and time, which I love. I really gotta bring back Taylor's Tiny Kitchen. I really gotta bring that back. What is my favorite part of living tiny? Okay, so for those of you that do not know, I live in a tiny house on wheels. So I love just the freedom it provides me and the lifestyle, and I just love that it's mine. I love that it's mine. You know, I talked about it for years, and then I went and did it because I'm a person that is about the things that they say, and I back it up with my actions. And I talked for years. I was obsessed with the tiny house movement. I watched all those HGTV shows and house hunter shows and the container homes and the RV livings and all that stuff. I love it. So I did it, and I absolutely love it. I think that's my favorite part, is that it's mine. You know, it's mine. It's my own little movable